part of the conversation. So the reason we're here today is that it's we wanted to probe this topic because it's clear a lot of things in the NFT ecosystem and Web3 marketing, a lot has changed over the last year and a half. So we wanted to talk about what are the things that have shifted and what does it take now to have a successful and well-marketed NFT and web project. We want to talk about how community fits into that engagement. But I think what I want to do is just to kick off the conversation. Let me hear from um, Mark, sort of just at a high level. What have you seen it has shifted in, like, what projects uh, NFT and Web3 projects need to do to be successful? What's changed in your experience the last year and a half?
Sure. So, I guess I can kind of talk about the prior to that a little bit too. So, I started just as many in the DeFi side, and this was when NFTs weren't as prevalent as they are today. And so I saw the life cycles of many projects, Web3 projects in this space, and especially from the marketing side, right? And in the early days, even if you can take it back to early last year too, I mean, it was completely different when things were happening during the bull run, right? Pretty much every project was um, having success in certain ways, and it didn't really take too much to really get yourself or the project out there. But there were certain characteristics, that I saw, and a lot of it was leveraged from like the hype standpoint, right? Some of the projects that I took a look at to an extent would utilize a lot of influencer marketing um, at the time to get themselves out there in certain ways, and leverage that as well as the roadmap, white paper, and vision to really get the community kind of excited in that sense. And so, seeing that whole cycle, there were a lot of projects at the time, especially during the bull run, where it was a lot of, in a sense, over promising and under delivering. Um, and I also think it's because of how the market was so not as mature as it is now in certain aspects, right? Especially with the way things are going now. So that's kind of the outlook that I saw. And obviously, the projects that were really focused on the community itself first and providing as much value, they're still around today. And there's not many of them that I've seen from my 3 years of being in this space that have been able to survive, but there are a few that have really done well. So I think right now, especially in this market, the way things are going, um, I think it's incredibly important to establish trust and transparency right from the get-go, and to really show that the value that you bring, and to explain the value prop and the problem that you're solving. It's completely different to how it was like a year ago when you could say, hey, I'm going to go and release a game, and people would buy into it. And then they're like, oh, well, sorry, it's going to take a year or two to kind of get things going, or certain aspects like that, or they might not have a true MVP ready right from the start, or something tangible to kind of show the community that there are things in the works. So that's the transition I'm seeing now. It's more of a stable base, and I really like that on that end.
No, that's a good point. It's a good way to kick off the sort of frame the conversation. Um, and Richard, I see you have your hand up too, and I wanted to say to the speakers, um, if you want to interject something, raise your hand. I may sort of call on you or point to you, but certainly if you want to sort of respond to what someone is saying, definitely raise your hand, and we'll get your response. Richard, what's your response?
Yeah, so to that, I mean, for what we're seeing, right? I believe the market's following, the natural phases, right, for growth, and obviously the first phase, there wasn't much knowledge. There was a big reliance on like influencers and people that you trust, to get the information. Now the market's getting a little more mature, a little more educated, and we're seeing it now grow into more, mature marketing, like digital, because now the community you know, from the first phase, you know, the degens, the more emotional players were in. Now we're looking at, you know, players that really they need more data. They're you know, we're not as trusting, right? So now it's not just, hey, having the right proper people saying the right things, but actually having the content for when the community comes looking for answers on why this is a good investment, why this is safe, why this is long term, you know, why this is for me. Like that's, I think, you know, and Mark was getting to that, you know, about now it's more on preparation. You know, before you could get away with, you know, just kind of flying with a vision and some promises, and now you really need to show something, you know, work in progress, a true vision, how it can be connected. So that's, yeah, where I see it going.
Okay. No, that's good to hear your perspective. And I think, you know, what's great about this group of we've got, you know, folks more from an agency perspective, Cecile, who's with Outlier Ventures, you know, in that perspective, and also Zachery Hinson from Metropolis World. Zachery, I would be curious to hear what you think, because like you are, you like you're on the front lines, right? You're building community from Metropolis World. You're in Discord, right? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, so if you were to take it back a year ago, I guess I came into the space 2 years ago, but right around a year ago, everybody used to have a shield channel in every Discord. I know everybody remembers it. And I've watched Discords back then go from 45 members up to like 15, 20,000 off of just members going out there and shilling it, and people just wanting to get in these projects and be a part of what was like building in the NFT world and being part of Web3 and everything. As of lately, I think, like everybody's been saying, people are kind of losing trust in the influencer marketing and so on. So it's more along the lines of making sure you know what you're talking about. People can call it out really quickly now. People come into Discord, they come onto Twitter, and they'll ask you questions that involved how you're going to be able to integrate other projects into your project and so on and so forth. And if you don't have a good answer for that, stuff like that, you're just not gonna be as easy to grow, if that makes sense. And then also, I still think Twitter's king. Twitter is still king. Twitter marketing and hashtag usage, that's been like huge for us, as well as making sure that your project has really good aesthetics. It has to look good. It has to look good on the outside. People want to look at it and see it and be in awe of it, if that makes sense. And then usually once they see that, it's pretty easy to get them on board. If you have the answers and the aesthetics, you're good to go these days.
Oh, I like that. Answers and aesthetics. That's very memorable. Has a good ring to that. A very, very, very good takeaway. Cecile, I'd love to call on you. I'd love to hear what you think from your perspective, and you know what you're seeing through your work at Outlier Ventures.
Yeah, so definitely a lot of founders become a little more conservative, and that's a very sensible thing to do, because now you can't really just hype your way through a bear market, right? So what we're seeing now as well in terms of marketing is that you have public relations that you have to keep going despite things being really bad. So not only do you need to communicate to your community, your followers, when things like good things are happening, you need to say something when bad things are happening. People, if you're just going to be quiet about it, then people are going to start to think that maybe you're backing out, or maybe you're getting scared as well. So yeah, there's a lot of changes. I completely agree that people are starting to be more mature. Influencer marketing is like people have mentioned here. It's not always going to be everything that people rely on for information. So now you have to back up whatever hype you have with a structure for your community, a long-term structure. So I think that's really valuable, not just for investors, but also for the whole space in general. So I think it's a good shift.
No, that makes sense. I'd like, you know, sort of similar themes. You've got to really back things up now, and you can't be sustained on hype. Mike, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this.
Yeah, so what has shifted? Yeah, I mean, echoing those thoughts, I mean, it's critical more than ever for brands to have a long-term Web3 strategy that focuses on creating products with utility rather than focusing on the short-term, perhaps stunts that some NFT drops have done over the past 18 months. I think bear market tends to shake off speculators or short-term projects built without long-term strategies and foundations. So I think this gives rise to, now's the time to educate, innovate and build, which ultimately results in more viable companies. And I think the smartest brands are incorporating metaverse into their Web3 and NFT long-term strategies. So I think obviously Web3 is here to stay. And there's many communities, for example, metaverse video game-like environments are ever more eager to see their favorite brands bring products into the gaming environments where they spend so much of their time. Also, for example, in digital fashion, it's a smart time now for new designers to think how they'll enter the space, connect with people to collaborate, test new tools, and all these innovations will inspire further and innovative marketing.
No, it's great to have that perspective too. I mean, it definitely themes of what's the longer term strategy, right? We're now, at the beginning of this sort of movement. I think people weren't looking at the long term horizon, and now they do. Richard, I see you've got your hand raised. What did you have to add to the conversation?
Yeah, so to that, about the long-term sustainable competitive advantage, the utility, I think that's another big thing that we hit on. And I think you're going to see utility evolve into like all-inclusive utility, community-generated utility. Some of the things that, we've been infusing into, some of the accounts that we're working with. And then also, I think that you'll see marketing strategy really permeate, such as, we all are aware that you make, normally 20%, 80% from your top 20%. And I think you'll see hodling mechanics or hodlonomics coming in to where you'll see the top portion of collections, like the top 5-10%, start having guaranteed utility and different other rewards to really make sure that there's a more competitive nature and the whales are more active. Because right now you're seeing a lot of randomness, right? That's the transition where hey, we're gonna have a drop or we're gonna have a raffle, and there's a random element. Everybody's treated the same, and really randomness and raffles, they reward the masses. Like you don't have to anybody. You can pay the minimum and be rewarded. So I think you'll see a lot of those cool things permeating, and in the future they'll be teaching classes on all this really cool stuff. So